Representatives here today with Motion School Board.
This is regular board meeting of Tatum ISD. It's now 5:30 on June 13, 2020. We have quorum. Mr. Crawford will lead us in a pledge, followed by a prayer by Mr. Smith.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you that we could be here together today to make these decisions and put our children and our community and leadership at our hearts. And thank you for being there with us all as we do this. In your name we pray. Amen.
Just turn these on, please.
You want to try?
Yeah, hit the plug off. There you go. I'm not sure.
Ms. Haley, you got it. What do you want to say?
No, sir.
I need a motion to approve the consent item and present the minutes of regular board meeting on May 16, 2022.
I make a motion to approve the main consent items.
A motion by Ms. Amy, thank you. The second, and a second by Mr. Skinner. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President, Board of Trustees, next item I have is your preliminary STAR report. I'm gonna make this bigger. We just received, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Hopkins, our elementary in today and middle school math. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I'll first start out with this chart. This is what it looked like. Shrink this. This is what it looked like coming out of COVID last year. Because you remember 2020, we did not have a test. So from 19 to 21, the red is where we declined. The green is where we went up. So we had 11 areas improved in 19 or testing last year. This year's testing, as you see, we got a lot more green. We do have some areas that still need some attention, but it kind of sticks out when you see the three. And again, this is approaches, that's passing, meets and masters. We want more meets and masters, of course. But overall, pleased, but we still have a lot of work to do. This is the high school. The previous year, they only had 1, 2, 3, 4 areas that were in the green. They've got 4, 7 now in the green. And again, you can still be in the green and, you know, they're in a red -8 here, but they got 96 overall passing rate. So even when you're at the top, it's hard to keep going above and above. So that's something to keep in consideration there.
That approaches is passing?
Yes, that is passing. So 84% was passing in Algebra 1, 95, 96, 95% in biology. English 1 was 77. Now it's down from previous year when they had 82, okay? And so English 2, previous year had 76, up to 82. U.S. history had 93, up to 96. And so this just gives you a kind of a color code to let us know we went up 3 points in passing in that particular subject, U.S. history. Everybody following along? So then we get down to elementary school and you'll see 3rd grade math. They scored 83 this year. Previously, they had 75. And so that's a 8-point change. And then meets and masters went up as well. Third grade reading, fourth grade reading, math, fifth grade reading, fifth grade science. So even though we went down, we got an 80 in science, but we went up in meets and masters, which is good. That means kids pretty much are getting what they need to take care of, and they're expected to take care. If you're at a master's, it means that a student who earned this grade is expected to succeed in the next grade level with little or no help. So if they scored high in a master's, if a kid scores there, they're probably not going to need any help the following year. If they're in approaches, probably so. They still passed, but you didn't make a lot of growth from the previous year. And so they'll be in our RTI program. So overall, why did that go away? Well, I don't know why that went away. I just deleted it, but I can't get it back for some reason. But we had 30 areas improved this year. The previous year we had 11. So I would be happy with our scores. Now, these are preliminary. These are not like snapshot. We don't know kids that came in after October, but it shouldn't change that much. So just kind of giving you an idea of where we're at currently right now. We do have some work to do in some areas. Anywhere where you see 3, that's probably going to be a concern. So, any questions on preliminary scores? We do not have any statewide regional data as of right now. When we do, we can update it with, y'all will remember this chart. Last year. This kind of shows where we are currently. These are last year's passing standards. So when you look at Algebra 1, if they stay the same or go up a little bit more, the regional, not passing standards, but the regional scores, then we will be higher than the region and the state. Biology, similar the same way. And it kind of goes, but we just don't know what the state is right now or what the region is. But you can see roughly where we compare right now if it was to go up a little bit. So overall, looks like we're higher with region and state. But again, we don't know those yet. But if we were to use last year's.
JP, question, on the table that you had up there before you went to this page, it looked like the sciences right there.
Yes, 8th grade science.
It just went, it's terrible, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That is actually science right there, and that's social studies.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. All right. So, next item I have is summer school update. And Ms. Hopkins is going to report on that.
Am I good right here?
You're good right there.
Yes. So I just wanted to kind of update you guys. We have seen a lot of changes with the summer school program this summer. In the past, we've used class failures and attendance as our primary placement indicator for students who need to participate in summer school. Because of the House Bill 4545 mandate that came down last year, we have seen a significant addition of students to those numbers. We use the criteria of the original classroom failures and attendance, but then we also added if they failed 2 or more STAR tests to that. So if you look at, I don't know if there's a
Well,
link in
that
it.
was some technical issues.
Okay. I was walking
I'll
over
try
like I could fix it for you, but that's not me, is it? I apologize. So in that first table that you see here, you'll see some of our numbers from last year and then compared to this year. So overall, we had 113 students pre-K through 11th grade last year in summer school. This year, we have 197. That's a 78% increase. And these are numbers of students that showed up. There were other students that were asked to attend that have not attended. And we will do their remediation when school starts in the fall. That did result in an increase in a need of teachers. We were very fortunate. We had a great response this year from our teachers as far as being willing to help with that based on the board approved raises that they got for summer school, and not just their raises for the year, but for summer school as well. So I had nearly double the number of teachers apply for summer school positions that we needed. And last year we were asking teachers, begging teachers to participate. So we're very grateful for that. Ms. Whidden and Ms. Haston worked very, very hard in the last day of school, in addition to their normal end of the year tech wrap up, to make sure that we had Chromebooks available for the 220 students is what we were anticipating. So they did make sure that those Chromebooks were available for some differentiated instruction. At the high school level, we actually have students that are all, not only are they getting their hours for STAR remediation in House Bill 4545, but they're also able to do some credit recovery because they do have that technology that they may not have had if we had not made that available to them. So they're getting their hours for STAR, but then they're also possibly, they have the option to complete those classes using Grad Point, come in next year a little bit ahead of the curve of what they would have expected to. Teacher staff wise, you can see down at the very bottom, we did add staff. The 3/2 means that there were 3 instructional staff members and 2 aides last year for the primary campus. This year we have 4 staff members and 1 aide on that primary campus because our first grade numbers dropped just a little bit there. So that's why there's only 1 aide. The additional aid that we have this year is splitting our time in the middle school levels between 7th and 8th grade, helping out those very large classes. We tried to keep our class size to about 15 because when you've got students that are already struggling and you put 25 kids in a class, you're babysitting at that point. Pardon me, but that's the truth. So by putting an aide in there with them, it does enables that teacher to work a little bit more one-on-one with them while the aide is facilitating. Overall, summer school is going very well. We have the basic, issues of kids not wanting to be there because it's summertime, but the schedule itself makes it a little bit more appealing to them if they can get it out of the way in half day and still have half their day to take care of that. Then they can go home and play in the pool or whatever. So, any questions about anything summer school related?
Looks like a rough spot to middle school.
That's cool.
We did have a lot of our students, based on the science and social studies scores, that are there, not just science and social studies, but there were a group that we made sure that we had specifically a science teacher and specifically a social studies teacher there. You might notice that there's a little asterisk there with Ms. Boldan from our high school campus, is serving on both campuses so that she can remediate specifically for that early periods U.S. history in the morning, the early morning with our 8th graders, and then she's going to the high school to work with them in the afternoon for the U.S. history.
Will we have new teachers there this year? They or did they, was that social studies, was that one of the coaches leaving?
No.
Okay.
That was a teacher that, she was not a coach.
Okay.
Board goals. That's you too, Ms. Hawkins.
All right, so, board goals, for this year, we wrapped up, the end of the year, because I think we kind of stopped in February. So we're picking up at what's left over, which included our early childhood goals for 3rd grade. Third grade reading, they did very, very well on their scores. We saw increases almost across the board with third grade reading. Our goal, let's make sure, was set at 87%. We improved from 70, which was an improvement from last year. Our third grade reading levels, as he indicated earlier, in 2021, we were at 37 and we went to 59 for meets. And for masters, we were at 23% and we went to 29% this year. So we did meet that board goal for that. The math goal, there's a note on here, as Dr. Richardson mentioned earlier, we still are getting those last math scores in. So we only have 88% of our math scores in for third grade. At this time, we have 25% masters in third grade reading, 56% meets, and 83% approaches. So overall, that third grade group of readers did very well, and that did meet our board goal as well. The last group that we have to look at is the CCMR goals. CCMR board goals run 2 years behind, so we're actually looking at the data from 2020. Well, we all know what happened in 2020. So the U.S. Department of Education indicated that we would not be tracking that particular group, so there's not a goal that's going to be related to that group for 2020. There was not any data at the end of the year, that year. And that is all of the board goals.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it. Ms. Hopkins is handling our summer school this summer. So she did last summer too. Next item we have is board training. This is just kind of let you all know that y'all will be having some training coming up. And well, let that go. I believe Mr. Smith's the only one that requires 10 hours. Everybody else needs 5 hours for board training this summer. So let's make sure y'all get y'all's hours in. I know y'all are going to be taking off here the month of June. So let's get those. Let's be very, very diligent there. There's also some new training for board safety that needs to be completed by September 30th. And there's a link on here that will walk you through how to complete that training. So that's it on the board training. The next item is our budget outlook. Mr. Milam.
We're going to look at the similar template we've looked in the past, but then I'll take it a little bit deeper and show you some things if you want to look up on your own. See where sometimes we get some of the information we need.
Yeah, but I'm having more computer issues tonight, and I don't know why. Can y'all click on that? Mm-hmm. All right. Mr. Smiley, you want this to go back so I can get the computer?
Yeah. Well, if you'll see, get the link. If you hit that link, it shows basically the template we look at. If you'll notice, the very bottom line has changed a little bit from the last time we talked about a budget update, and I was going to go into detail why. If you hit that as of SOF blue icon, you can open that up. You have to go to control. It might just open right up the slide over on top of that. Here. Yes. And so,
Mr. Spike, can you help me for a minute?
that is the FSP website, and basically if you put in our school year, you'll go to summary finances, you put in this right school year, and then our district code is 201910. 201910.
Yeah. Yeah, click on summary finance.
What?
2019.
2019.
Brandon, we're doing 21, 22?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
21, 22. School year.
please correct if I'm select school. We're doing 22.
Did you get it?
Okay.
And so that's basically a summary of how the state funds us. And,
You look at
and so if you'll notice, there's different dates that they fill out these numbers. And so that's how much money they're gonna, the foundation allotment, that's the money they're gonna give us, and they revisit it, and you'll see every month or so, maybe twice a month. They kind of update that number based on data we send them through Teams, through other forms of ways that Betsy sends them some data, and it kind of adjusts based on preliminary values, final values. So basically, that's kind of where we get a lot of our numbers. And if you click on that HTML and any one of those links, it gets even more specific.
Okay, what was our code again?
201-19. And that just kind of goes through and tells you kind of what they're sending it for. There's a minimum requirements of spending, 55% of this amount or 100% of this amount, like early childhood. So we have spending requirements, but that's where I get a lot of the numbers that I share with you. There are two columns. The one's called the LPE, that's a legislative planning amount or estimate. And then the last column is really our real numbers, the district planning amount. And so the column on the far right are those actual numbers that we would see. And again, they'll change this until probably, I think in November next year. That they'll keep adjusting this up and down based on enrollment. Certified values come out in August or end of July. And so there's just a lot of data in there. You can dig and play with it all you want to see what kind of, the reason why they give us certain amounts. So,
Yeah, well, I went down most recently, go down the bottom. 9 and 10, and click on that HTML.
yeah, they just updated it on the 10th. Again, the reason for the up and down movement is because property values preliminary. And mostly student enrollment are at 10th ADA basically. That's what drives the funding is the ADA. Kurt, is there a computer when y'all are training?
Man, I'm kind of out of the loop here. Try to.
Question mark.
Now, for the next year's budget, we almost got our roster filled or all of our teachers hired, and so we can start plugging those folks in. Move the funding around, run payroll simulations, and at that point, we'll have a better idea of what the budget's going to be for next year. But that is a big undertaking with a lot of people moving out of ESSER and into the local payroll. And there's a lot of calculations that have to be done behind the scenes and recode a ton of people. So that's taking some time, but we should be able to get that. My goal is to run a payroll simulation in 2 weeks. And have a better idea for next year.
You talk about tax rate, sorry.
That's another action item. I believe that's an action item later on.
Yeah, but about when we.
So for the tax rate, now, if you'll notice our tax rate, we can't really, the state now tells us what our tax rate is unless we want to go above a certain amount, then we have a TRE. But TA will not tell us what our compressed tax rate is until they get certified values at the end of July. So when they get to the end of July, the comptroller certifies them. TEA, we go through a process and TEA says, here's your tax rate. And I do not anticipate the tax rate going down because the property values went up. I'm kind of assuming that's how that's going to work. But again, state aid will kick in and try to have the same, level of funding. TA will kick in more foundation money if we get local taxes, less local taxes. So it's kind of a balancing act. But end of July, certified values, and we'll have a tax rate, and obviously we'll go from there with the budget numbers.
And I think we kind of roll right in. Any questions on the budget right now? My chance. The next item we have is to set a date for the public meeting. Because again, it has to be done by August 31st, as we all know. And we normally set that for our board meeting in August. So our recommendation is August 8th, would be a date for the public meeting. So. open meeting. I need,
I'll make a motion that we, set August 8th as the public hearing to discuss proposed budget, proposed tax rate.
Motion, Mr. Crawford, there's a second.
I second, obviously.
Second by Mr. Smith. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
Again, we have to approve what we're gonna publish, and so this is your approval to publish our tax rate as is right now. And again, things might change, and we can always change our no rate, or we can change, when the state tells us what it is, and it's different. You know, we'll have a new proposed budget that you'll approve in August, and then approve the final budget, so. But this is what we're gonna put in the newspaper, so we need the board's approval to print this in the newspaper between 10 and 30 days out.
Is that the same rate it was last year?
Yes, that is what we're, that's about, as of right now, it's the same rate. And the total tax rate, yes, 207.
Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a motion to approve the publication of notice of public meeting rates of .9634 MNO and .2436 INS for a total tax rate of 120.7 for discussion adoption of the 2023 budget of proposed tax rate?
Mr. President, I so move.
Have a motion by Mr. Williams, and a second. Second by Mr. Crawford. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
Spot's gonna talk about Senate Bill 1267. It's come out that we now have to, have board approval on.
So in Senate Bill 1267, there's some things that's required in it as far as mandates as far as training. That training goes along with our staffing. So if you look at the outline here, the good thing about, let me back up, the good thing about this is that we already have done a lot of these trainings already. This only specifies and get a little more in detail because some districts, I'm not sure, maybe didn't even do it. But we've done a lot of these, but this is more of an outline of what's required, number one, and who's gonna be required to do it and how frequently. So as you see, like suicide prevention, we've done that every year on teachers coming in through our, what's the name of it?
Safe schools.
Safe Schools training. We have modules that are built in, we pay, and they have all the training, which they do a great job of keeping up with the state of Texas, making any changes going forward. They go in and they can add to. The good thing about it, in talking with them, all the things that we have currently right now, which we added another module, costs a little bit more, but it's all in one place. It's easily tracked, and you can turn it on and off, and you can assign who you need to assign it to. For instance, on number one, on suicide prevention, counselors, teachers, nurses, aides, and principal all be required to take that. And everybody's uploaded in the system from a district standpoint. For an example, cafeteria workers, there's some civil rights training that they go to that other people don't see. So you can individualize trainings for whatever staff group needs it. So you can see based upon these are the things that will be required based upon this new clearinghouse of trainings that these individual groups out to the far right will be required to, and at the far right will be the frequency. And you'll see that those will be annually for everybody, because I think it's important. This past, maybe 2 years ago, the big thing when came in, we were doing human trafficking already. So that was already in there. And then too, coming from COVID, there were a lot of kids who, with the grief and trauma, which is added in, the one above, and then anybody, our counselors, teachers, nurses, aides, and principal and appropriate staff with the EpiPens. Because we have a lot of kids that go outside, from ants to anything, kids that's allergic, teachers being trained how to use an EpiPen, that would be great because you never know. And we want to be prepared in those situations. The bottom tab or link there, that's a list of all trainings that go. So for an example, every year, people are not happy, but bloodborne pathogens, that's something that's taken every year. Those things, if you go with, probably going to be on student health and safety, as far as they kind of got them categorized throughout what's required. No different, go back up to the first one. Nope, go back down, go down, like that one. So right now, let's say in our special ed life skills classroom, you got a kid who is restrained on the ground or restrained, in a seat, so forth. You got 30 days to get that person trained. Those things, they've always been in place. In order to get them trained, you can have somebody in there, and if they're not trained, and when they put their hands to restrain somebody, they got 30 days. But we have all ours that trained at this point. So that's not an issue, but there are requirements when it goes within that whole length that's been required since day one. This next clearinghouse that was shown to you or additional things that's taking place. As I stated, there's a lot of school districts that probably were not doing this. This is kind of mandated throughout, kind of catch up with the times now, what kids need. So it's very important. Any questions?
I have a motion to approve the Senate Bill 1267, convention bill requirement for school district plan as presented.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Ms. Hamer, a second,
Second.
have a second. Skinner. Mrs. Skinner, all in favor? All opposed? None motion carried. Moving on. Meeting executive session. Closed session meeting to discuss the following posted on the agenda this evening is allowed by Texas Government Code 551.74, personnel matters, the resignation of employment of professional personnel, and the withdrawal of resignation. The vote will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result, discussion of closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in open meeting. It is now 6:02.
Thank you, Ms. Hopkins.
I got it, thank y'all.
Thanks, guys.
You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Miles.
Yes, sir.